if you do not have this calculator, okay, so let me just minimize real quick. You do not have this calculator on your desktop, then it's already going to be tough for you to take this test. So I need you to let me know that you don't have this calculator, and then we'll tell you what you need to do. So hopefully we can get it onto your computer before the test on Thursday. And you know, see what we can do to get you going, because it's already going to put you at a disadvantage if you don't have that calculator. All right. And the day of the test isn't going to help because I can't get it on there the day of the test. All right. Okay. So with that being said, today we're not going to have as many word problems as like what we had last week and even yesterday, but there's still going to be word problems. And so we're going to be taking a look at, you know, on these word problems, we're looking for keywords that kind of give away what it is we're supposed to do. So on question 1, I'm going to look, usually the very last sentence is the actual question, and I see rate of change. And so rate of change is another word for slope, so we're looking for slope. I also see an equation. Now what sucks is this, in this equation, X and Y are on the same side. And so we have a rule that we can't work with anything that has X and Y on the same side. So we have to get Y by itself. Now, for some of us, this is something that you can do. For some of us, you're like, yep, I'm guessing C on that one. And that's great. It's a great strategy. I love it. So nothing wrong with that. So when we take a look at this, first thing we're going to do is minus the 5X. And so we're minusing 5X to both sides. That gets rid of the X's and the 5's. And the big thing here is make sure you bring down the negative 2. So negative 2Y is equal to, we never, ever, ever combine these. This gives me negative 5X plus 4. And then we're going to divide everything by what's in front of Y. So divide everything by negative 2. And I want to remind you that you can stick, so slope is the fraction that is in front of X. It's actually pretty obvious at this point. So if you're looking at your answers at all, you should be putting your answers in right now. But I am going to go and show you that you can go to regular calculator and type in this negative 5/2. So we're going to go control divide, type in negative 5/2, hit enter. And we got 5/2, just a positive 5/2. Now, when you look at this, even if you didn't know that it was negative or positive, right here, 5 was on top and 2 was on the bottom. Okay, so I like how you tried to do that. So we've had a couple of people that have answered, and you knew it had to be 2 and 5, but we stressed that the 5 is on top and C has the 2 on top. And so it had to be an answer with the 5 on top. So the answer would be D. But I love the fact that we tried to put it in early. So let's look at number 2. All right, number 2. So this is domain. So on domain, what we're talking about is domain is X's and range is Y's. And so we know that my answers have to come from the x-axis. And we look at our answers, and immediately we can get rid of 2 of these because they got y's there. Domain is x's. All right. So now that we have, you're not wrong about that. This is a negative slope. It's just they're not asking me about slope. But yes, you are correct about that. That is a negative slope. And so when we take a look at this, what we're wanting to do, so domain is when we crop this right here. So I'm just going to crop this. You can see we hit negative 4 right there. And both of these say negative 4. So what this really is coming down to is this equal to bar means that the circle is filled in, it's closed. This without an equal to bar means we've got an open circle. So right here, when we crop this picture, okay, very good. I see some people putting this down. It's an open circle. And so open circles do not have an equal to bar. So the answer has got to be C. So very good if you were able to answer that one early. Okay. So domain and range. Okay. A lot of times it's written like this right here. And, it's going to be where it touches the x-axis. So right here, -4. But then it can also come down to whether it's an open or a closed circle. If you just want to look at 2 real quick on this answer, 2 was, sorry, that's a terrible line. 2 was a filled in circle. And so that's why 2 had an equal to. Number 3, we've already said that if this looks confusing to you, then you're just going to guess C, and I'm okay with that. All right. What do we see here? Well, in the last sentence is usually where your keywords are. I see domain. So domain is the letter X. All right. The problem is when I look at this, especially like this equation right here, there is no letter X. They're using the letter C and N. So hopefully you know that in y equals mx plus b, y is by itself, it's y equals, and that the X is next to the numbers. So what is going to be X here would be N. So X is equal to N. So domain would be the letter N, which means it's not going to be J. It's not going to be the C. Now I want you to notice on this, it says 0 to 606. This 606 is probably going to be the Y, the range. So it's probably not going to be G either, because y'all see that 606 is probably not that. So it's probably going to be either F or H. It's talking about 8 to 12 or 0 to 12. And so N, what did N mean? N is the number of kits purchased. And so we're talking about kits purchased, and I see right here 8 kits and 12 kits. And so I need something that has 8 and 12, and it looks like it's going to be F, because this says 0. So it says they want to purchase at least 8 kits. They don't want 0 kits. They want at least 8. Okay, so the answer is going to be F here. So I see a few people that were already putting F. That's good. So Haley, when you put this answer, if you would put 3 and then F, it just helps me out. If you just put F, that's fine. But if you'll put 3 and F, then it'll make it easier for me to go back and grade this. So put it in the private chat, just 3 and F. All right. I will talk about one more thing. When it's written like this is something that is measured. And so if it's measured, then that means you have to use a tool. Well, we wouldn't use a measuring cup and pour kits into the measuring cup. You wouldn't measure it with like a tape measure. If it's this, it's something you count. And that's what we're doing here. We're counting the number of kits that we bought. We bought 8 kits, 9 kits, 10 kits. That's counting. And so it would be F. So that's another thing. Now, in the end, if you're like, Coach, this is like Chinese to me, then guess C and move on with your life on the test, okay? Nothing wrong. I don't know how many questions are on the test, but the last time we took a test made by my boss, it was like 15, 16 questions. So if it is 15 or 16, I don't know how many it is going to be, but then it's possible that there might be 10 hard questions, 9 or 10 hard questions. So that means you might be guessing C 9 or 10 times, and I'm okay with that because that's our strategy. All right. You may only know 5 or 6 questions, but we need to get those 5 or 6 questions right. And that's what matters, is those 5 or 6 questions. All right. So let's take a look at this one. We're looking for a keyword here. So the keyword is usually in that last sentence, and there is a keyword here. That is y-intercept. Now, we've been talking about y-intercept for 2 units. So ever since unit 2, we've been talking about y-intercept. And I already got some people throwing answers up there, which is awesome. Now, let's look at something here, okay? So to be a y-intercept, first off, the x has to be 0, okay? So to be a y-intercept, the x has to be 0. So look at this. It's definitely not J because there's not a 0 for X, but the rest of these all have 0. Okay, the second thing, the y-intercept is right here. Now, I have no idea what this number is, okay? You don't know what this number is. What we do know, you can tell me if this number is positive or negative. If it is below the center, so right here, the center, it's called the origin. If it's below the center, then it's the negatives. If it's above the center, then it's the positives. And so right here, this is below the center. So this is going to be negative. So when you look at your y coordinates, it's definitely not going to be 1 because 1 is positive. So that's not it. Is it a positive 1/2 or a negative 1/4? Okay. And you might not have seen that negative sign right there, but like we said, this has to be a negative. And so the answer would be F. So there were a few people that put G, okay? And so I think you saw that it had to have a 0 and, oh, no, I know exactly what you saw. You saw the x-intercept, okay? So you saw that x-intercept right there and you were thinking 1, okay? But remember, that's on the x-axis, so it has to be on the y-axis to be the y-intercept. We didn't know exactly where it was, and so it ended up being that negative 1/4 because we at least knew it was on the negative, okay? So make sure that you, matter of fact, what I recommend if you're ever doing the y-intercept is to start at the y right here, because most of the time they put y's like this right here, and just go down that y-axis so that you stay on the y, okay? Don't let your eyes sneak over to that x-axis right there. Keep it on the y till you find out where it crosses. Okay, so number 4 should be F. Number 4 should be F. All right. So number 5. All right, so number 5 looks like another tough one. Okay, so let's see. We do know that this is range, and range is y's. Everything has y's or they don't have anything. So far, we're good. So what is y? So right here in the sentence, it says the distance he has remaining. Okay. Okay, so distance he has remaining from what? It says the student lives 3 miles from the library. Okay, so he's going to the library and he lives 3 miles. And so y is the distance he has remaining. Well, I know the furthest he can travel is 3 miles. Look at all your answers. Okay. This doesn't even have the number 3. These two have 3, but it also has 4. Is he going to go 4 miles? No, he's not going to go 4 miles. The furthest he can go is 3 miles. So the only logical answer here would be D. Okay. Now, in the end, and I keep saying this, guys, but I'm dead serious, is you may look at that and struggle with that and be like, I have no idea. Then you would guess C. Okay. And like I said, there might be 9 or 10 questions tomorrow or Thursday that you have to guess C on, and that's okay. Now, that's not going to give you an A or a B on the test, but you should pass. Now, if you are doing today's meeting and tomorrow's meeting and you're getting bonus points, so those of you that are typing into the chat and you're getting bonus points, then you easily could make a C, but with these bonus points, it raises you up to a B. Okay, or if you make a B, it raises you up to an A. Okay, but in the end, what does matter is the easy ones, and that's not easy. So this is how you get an A on the test, is getting questions like that. All right, so this is question number 6, and we've only seen this, I think, maybe one other time. And so first off, one of the things that we can do here is, sorry, I'm trying to figure out where I can be and y'all still see everything. Okay, right there. So one of the things we've talked about is when y and x are on different sides, which they are here, then the number in front of x, even if there's parentheses, this is your slope right here, okay? And so the first thing that we've always taught y'all to do when we know where slope's at is tell us if it's positive or negative. So you draw slope, dude, and slope, dude, is going downhill. That's negative. So if it's negative, we can look at these and there should be a negative in front of x, and there's not for C and D. So we can mark off C and D. Now, in the end, even if you forget to do that, there's still something we can do here. Now, the only time we can plug something into our calculator is if y is by itself, okay? And as of right now, y is not by itself. So we cannot plug this into the calculator unless we do something. And so this is the something that's brand new. Okay, we've seen it one other time. If I want to get rid of this 7 right here, I can move it to the very end. But because I'm switching sides, I have to switch this from a plus to a minus. And when I do that, that gets rid of this. Now is y by itself. Yes, and you can now type this into the calculator. Let's go ahead and move this one too. So this 1 right here can move down to the end, but it's got to switch signs, so it becomes a minus. And we're going to get rid of that right there. All right, so now that this says y equals, then we can go type this in. So we're going to hit calculator. We're going to go to graphs because it's y equals. And we are going to type in minus 3x, or so minus 3 parentheses x minus 4. So minus 3 parentheses x minus 4. And then at the end, we move that 7 down to the end, and it's now a minus 7. So does everybody see what we're doing there? This was on our last test, and I hadn't taught this to y'all, so most of us missed this. Okay, so we're going to hit enter. And take a look at this. Does this line match that line? Dang, that's pretty close. It crosses at 5 on the y-axis and in between 1 and 2. Looks like it crosses at 5 on the y-axis and between 1 and 2. Hey, that's my answer. They will never give you 2 lines that are so close to each other that you can't really tell. And so if that looks like it's it, that's your answer right there. So the answer should be A.
You could go menu 5-1 and hit 0.
You're exactly right there. So we could hit menu 5-1 on this. So menu 5-1. And this is going to show you the y-intercept. And so the y-intercept does say 5, and it guarantees you that that's 5 right there. Okay. So in the end, we want to make sure that you understand that if it's really close to y being by itself, and all you got to do is get rid of that one number, just move it to the end, and then switch the sign. Okay, and then you can plug it into the calculator. All right. I think we'll have another one that we'll see tomorrow. So hopefully, I know we haven't seen a lot of those, but hopefully we'll see enough of them that you can do them. All right, so right here, I see another, and I'm just going to work through this really quick. We got y and x together. And so it's asking for slope. So we're going to subtract 3x. So for a lot of us, you're guessing C on this, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. Minus 4y is equal to, and then we never combine these, so we get minus 3x minus 8. Divide by the number in front of y. And because we're looking for slope, we are only looking in front of x. So 3 has to be on top. 4 has to be on the bottom. Okay, so if I put this in the calculator, it'll reduce it to 3 over 4. So the answer would be D. So what I love is I think some of us might recognize that the answer has to come from the numbers in front of x and y. So you at least knew it had to be A or D. And so that's awesome if you realize that it either has to be A or D. You know, you got a 50-50 shot of getting it, okay? But the 3 had to be on top and 4 had to be on the bottom. All right. So number 8. Okay, number 8 can be a little difficult here. This right here is asking for slope. There's no y equals here, so it can be a little bit difficult. This is where we're subtracting y's on the bottom and x's. I'm sorry, y's on top and x's on the bottom. So focus in on the y's. Everything in you is going to want to put the x's on top. We're going to focus in on the y's, and we got 0 minus, and then that's a -2 there. So you always put a minus, and then if it's negative, we're going to put the negative there. And then on bottom, we start with 0's buddy, -4, minus -2's buddy, 0. You can throw this into regular calculator. I think I've already, nope. I'm going to hit this right here. And we go control divide. We got 0 minus -2. So make sure you put both of those in. and then -4 minus 0. Hit enter, and we get -1/2. So the answer would be -1/2. Now notice if you're like, oh man, I'm not very good at that, and you guess C, you would have got that. And that's why, I tell you guys to be honest, when we talk about easy questions, number 8 is not one of those. Okay. And so if you guess C right there, then you would have got that. Number 9, we just recently learned. So anytime you see a graph with all these dots, it's called a scatter plot. They're asking you to predict where something's going to end up. And I believe that y'all can do this, okay? But you have to find, so it says, based on the scatter plot, how much money would be spent on a group of 10 people. So this is the number of people, and this is the amount spent. So I've got to find 10 people, which is right here. And you're going to go up. If this pattern continued, where would you expect it to be? I would expect it to be somewhere in here. Okay, so on 10 people, I would expect it to be somewhere in there. Then go back and look at your answers and see what is the most reasonable answer. A is 135. So 135 would be somewhere in here between 120 and 140. That looks pretty reasonable right there. Okay, so let's keep going. B would be 115. 115 would be below 120. I think that's a little less than what we like. C would be 105. Okay, well, if we didn't really care for 115, 105 is definitely going to be too low. And then D is 150. Now, this is going by 20, so 150 would be about right here. I would say that the best answer would be A, and I see a lot of y'all putting A's in already early. That's good. That's awesome. Okay. So, and some of y'all were able to narrow it down to 2, and that's awesome. Anything we can do to get us closer to the answer is great, but I would say 135 was the best. Okay. So the answer should be A. All right, number 10. Okay, I do think this should be an easy question. We've been talking about X and Y intercepts for 2 units now. Okay, now when they ask you to find the X and the Y, we find one at a time. And I like to start with the X. It's just what I like to start with. So I'm going to start with the X-intercept right here. So find the X-axis, go along the X-axis till you see that it crosses. And the X-intercept would be 5. I already see a lot of y'all typing in answers. That's awesome. And so look at this, and remember, we're only looking at the X-intercept. So don't look here at the end right here. Look right here. The X-intercept is not 6. And the X-intercept is not -4, so it's got to be one of these two. Then we can go look at the Y-intercept, okay? And the Y-intercept, we go down the Y-axis until we find where it crosses. And it crosses at -5, okay? And so now the -5 would be, the Y-intercept would be -5, so the answer would be B. So the X-intercept would be 5, and then the Y-intercept would be -5. Okay? So the answer would be B. All right, very good. Y'all did great on that one right there. That was awesome. All right. And see, I love this that y'all are typing it in early. It just shows me that the answer was B there. The answer was B. So it shows me that, you kind of know what it is that you're doing there when you can type it in before me. Okay, so that's awesome. All right, number 11. Okay, this will determine your test pretty much. Okay, any questions that have Y equals, and then they give you a table or they give you a set of points. Okay, that's right. So whenever we look at this right here, we're going to go type these into the calculator. And so we type this in. So we're typing in these Y equals right here. And I know that you're probably just watching me, so you're really not going to be able to do it early. But this is where we do need to make sure that y'all have this calculator and that you've opened it. The first time that you open it, it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to open. And so If you've already tried to open it, then on the day of the test, it'll open right up. Okay. All right. So we're going to go and plug this in to our graphs, and we're typing in x plus 3. So x plus 3, hit enter, and then we're going to hit menu 5, 1. And so remember, this 0 right here doesn't tell me anything. Okay. So I need to type in my x, which is 1, and see if it gives me 1. So we're going to type in 1, hit enter, and it does not. It gives me 4. All right, so we're now going to have to go type in g, which is 2x minus 1. So unfortunately, it's nothing like this one, so I'm just going to delete it and type in 2x minus 1. Enter, menu 5, 1. And it remembered my 1, so 1, 1. Does this guarantee that this is the answer? No. You at least have to check 2 of these. If you want to be extremely careful, check all of them. I'm going to type in 3 and see if it's 5. So I'm going to type in 3 and see if it's 5. Okay, if 2 of them match, you know this is your answer. And like I said, if you want to be very careful, then you'll type in all of these, okay? But don't just type in 1. Okay, just typing in one of these, there's a million different equations that contain the point 1, 1. Okay, so number 11 is going to be G. Make sure you know how to type this in. Okay, make sure you know how to type this in. I'm kind of stalling because I've only seen one person. There's 2 people. Okay, I didn't have a lot of people typing in the answers, so make sure you type in the answers. Okay, all right. So looking at number 12. Okay, so number 12, we're looking for a keyword here. Always look, I mean, you can look up here, but always look right before the answers. That very last sentence usually gives me my keyword. And the keyword here is going to be rate. Now, I know it doesn't say rate of change, but rate is the same as rate of change, and that is slope. So the first thing you're going to do, the first thing we always do when we have a picture and we're talking about anything that deals with slope, is draw slope dude, or imagine slope dude over on the left, and he's going downhill, so that's gnarly negative. Okay, so we're going to eliminate all the positive answers. And we tell you guys all the time, if you can tell me if it's positive or negative, you can usually eliminate half your answers. Now, it wants to know the rate in feet per hour, and it's either 50 per hour or 200 per hour. And I will say that if you just kind of use a little bit of common sense, it takes 4 hours to drain 200. It's not going to be 200 in 1 hour, so it's probably not going to be H. Okay. So if you use a little bit of common sense, if it takes 4 hours, then if it was going 200 per hour, you would be done in 1 hour. And so a little bit of common sense probably reveals the answer. And even before I mentioned that, I had somebody that had the answer, which is awesome. Okay, very, very good. But the way to properly do this, you would start at 200, and we're doing rise over run. This is going to go down 200 because I'm going to go all the way down from 200 to 0, down 200, and then I'm going to go over 4. So down 200 over 4, if you put that in the calculator, you get 50, and the answer would be F, negative 50. So at least if you can narrow it down to 2, you got a 50-50 shot of getting this right. Okay, and then if you can actually, it's going down 200 over 4 hours, 200 over 4 would give you 50. All right, number 13. Okay, looking for a keyword here that tells me what to do and ranges that keyword. I will tell you, when you look for keywords, do me a favor and don't circle every word. Like I get kids that'll circle function because we talked about functions before, but function doesn't tell me what to do here. Okay, range tells me what to do. Range is Y's. Okay, all these have Y's. It tells me that my answers have to come from the Y-axis. Well, when I look at my answers, where'd 3.5 come from? 3.5 came from the X. There's no way that it's F or H because there's no 3.5 over here. Okay, so now it's telling us, I'll tell you one more thing. there are 2 dots. There's got to be 2 answers. Okay. Now, all these have 2 answers. So obviously that wasn't too big of a thing, but sometimes that plays, a big role. All right. So what do we have here? Okay. The zeros are the same. The 200s are the same. Okay. So here's what this is going to boil down to. Now, it's going to be, I see an open circle or an equal to bar on 0 and 200. It's going to be easier to look at 200 than it is going to be to look at 0, which is, the 200 is right, right where we, on the y-axis. So it's easier to look at 200. So I'm going to keep my eyes on 200. And so when I look at 200, if it's an open circle, then there's no equal to bar. And if there's a filled in circle, then there's an equal to bar. So at 200 right here, that is an open circle. It might be tough for you to see, but there's an open circle right there. So that means there should be no equal to bar. So the answer would be G. Now, I know that there were a lot of y'all, some of y'all saw your mistake and changed it. I think there were a lot of y'all that were looking right here and said, oh, look, there's an open circle, but that's at 0. And 0, if we crop this, would be this dot right here, which is filled in. So that's why I was looking at the 200, because 200 was touching the y-axis. It's easier for me to look at 200 than it is for me to look at that 0 right there. So the dot that's touching the y-axis is what I focused in on. And there was no equal to bar with 200. Okay. So I know that was maybe a little bit tricky right there. All right. So number 14. Okay, so this was something that we talked about last week. And last week had a lot of word problems. So for those of you that are like, oh, I'm terrible at word problems, I'm guessing C, that's fine. Okay. But there were some tricks we taught you about these word problems. And if you can identify the tricks, then this actually becomes kind of easy. So first off, there were 2 different types of equations that were with word problems. One said y equals, and the y equals ones, we would look to see if we could p on the slope. The other ones were the profit questions. And so the profit questions were the ones, and usually the profit questions had all these equal 34s. And I can see right here, the profit is 34. So there was a trick that we taught you guys. And it had to do with cost and expenses. And the trick is that if you can find the cost or the expenses, you always subtract the cost and the expenses. Okay. Now I see 2 of these that have minus. Only one of them is going to subtract what it cost. So if you can find what it cost, the cost of the ingredients was $16, then this question now becomes really easy because I have to minus 16. That was the cost. So which of these has minus 16? C does. And once again, if you were like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and you guess C, you would have gotten that one. So this is why I don't ever want you to go, but I've guessed too many C's. Now, if you guess C on every single question, okay, there's a problem there. Okay. But if there's, 15, 16 questions and you have to guess C, maybe you have to guess C 11 times. I don't know. Maybe you get really lucky. Maybe there's a lot of C's. I don't know. But we need to go get all the easy ones we can get. And if you don't know the rest, you don't know these little tricks, or you at least don't have it memorized yet, then you guess C on them. Okay. Because this is not an easy question. Now, it's not going to give you a great grade, but it can give you a passing grade. And that's what we're looking for. Question 15. So this is slope right here. And what are we looking for? So slope is going uphill. So that's positive. So we can eliminate the 2 negatives. And I just realized, I don't know why I was thinking we get out at 15. We get out at 7. So I'm going to fly through this one real quick. You could guess on this one, but if we go up 1 and over 20, it would be 1 over 20. And if you put this in the calculator, I just want to remind you of this feature right here. So I'm going to go back to this. If I put control divide and put 1/20, it gives me a fraction. If you hit control enter, it gives you a decimal, and it's 0.05, which is G. So that right there is a tough. I see a few of y'all put that on there. That's good. Okay. So if you can at least eliminate positive or negative, you got a 50-50 shot of getting that right there. All right. We're going to skip 16. I want to look at 17. So 17, first off, if you can get perpendicular, you've actually, you're doing pretty well, okay, because it's perpendicular to this right here. If you can't, then I want you to get parallel. So parallel slopes are the same. So the slope of this line is 2. The parallel slope, I'm -2, sorry, would also be -2. Now, the problem is I'm not looking for parallel. So if I'm not looking for parallel, that means we can eliminate these. That's why we look for parallel. Parallel is easier. So if I'm not looking for parallel, then eliminate parallel, and it's got to be one of these two. And if we type this into the calculator, and I see some of y'all might be typing it in, some of y'all might be guessing because there's only 2 left. So we got 1/2 x. So control divide, we got 1/2. Now, this should not be something we're guessing on. This should be something that we're typing in, menu 5.1, and we're checking this point right here. So we're typing in 4. So 4 and enter, and you see 4 and 2. So yes, A is the answer. Now, if you have no idea what to do, the one thing I expect you to be able to do is to check this point right here, okay? So if I have no idea what to do, I type in y equals and I check that point. If we're lucky, the answer is early, like it was right here, okay? Or maybe they don't even try to trick you, and the only one that contains this point is this one. Either way, there's no excuse to not check this point just because you don't know perpendicular, okay? You do what you know, and we know to check that point right there, okay? Right here, this is one that is perpendicular to the y-axis. You could type in these two in the calculator and check this point, but you can't type in A or D. Now, what I hope that you know how to do is anytime it says perpendicular to the y-axis, you draw a picture, okay? So draw this picture right here, and this is the y-axis. That's why we're drawing it. This is not what we're, this is not helping me with my answer. What's going to help me with my answer is I have to draw the perpendicular. So perpendicular is when it crosses and forms a 90-degree angle. So I'm doing a couple of things here. I'm going to find slope, or I'm going to look at the notes that are provided because the notes will be provided. What does this line look like? It looks like this right here. So that connects to Hoy. And the y in Hoy means it has to be everything y. And so it's nothing x. If you find the slope, you know it's a 0 slope. That also connects to Hoy. So it can't be A and it can't be D because it connects to Hoy. Okay. And so anytime it's Hoy, then it's also the y. And so it has to be C. Now, I want to tell you one other thing. When you see questions like this, you know that the y has to connect to the y coordinate. You could immediately get rid of B because the y equals doesn't connect to the y coordinate. You could get rid of D because the x equals doesn't connect to the x coordinate. The only two possible answers are x equals 1 or y equals -3 because the x goes with the x coordinate, the y goes with the y coordinate. That could also help you. Okay, take a look at number 19. Okay, 19 should be very easy right here. So slope is 5. That means it has to go in front of x. So -5 in front of x. The only one that does that is C. You can also see that the y-intercept was +2. So number 19 is C. And I saw a lot of y'all had that before I even got there. That's awesome. 20. So let me say that technically it is time to go. I'm going to finish this out. Okay. If you can stay, I appreciate it. If you absolutely need to go to your fourth period, then go. You will still get your 5 bonus points because it was my fault we ran late. Okay. But if you can stay at least a few more minutes, then let me try to get through this. We only got like 23 questions. So, and the last few I think are a little bit quicker. So this is a question we absolutely must get. So if you don't know how to type this into the calculator, please stay and watch this part at least. So I'm going to type in A. And so we're going to go to graphs. We're hitting Control Divide. And we're typing in -1/4. So -1/4 x. And then it was +3. So we hit Enter. Menu 5-1. This doesn't mean anything. I am typing in the 4 right here. By the way, I want you to notice how I get in and out of my calculator. I hit this button down here. Okay. So when you're taking your test, hit this button and it will get you in and out of the calculator really quick. So we're typing in 4. Okay. It says 4 and 2, but we're looking for 4 and -2. So the trick to this is change both of these signs. Now, if you don't know this trick, you just keep typing it in until you find the answer. But I'm going to change this to a positive, this to a negative, and that would actually be D. So I'm going to change both of mine. Tab. I'm going to change this to a minus, and then change this to a positive just by deleting that. Hit Enter. Menu 5-1. It remembered the 4 and the -2, so that's good. I think the other one was -4, and that matches. -4, -4. Yes. So the answer would be D. Okay, 21 is going to be quick because 21 is undefined. And so anytime we see undefined, undefined connects with VUX. And so that is the X. So it's everything X. So I see some of you already putting answers. That's awesome. So it can't be anything with a Y. And notice that it's X equals and the X coordinate. It's everything X. Okay, I think the next one is going to be easy as well. And so, yes, because this is a special line. So right here, it's that vertical line that connects to VUX. And so once again, it has to be an X equals everything X. I see some of you already typing in. Nope, that was still 21, sorry. So it has to be something that is X equals, so, or it only has X's, sorry. And notice it crosses at 2, so it's touching the X-axis at 2. And so the answer would be D right there. So if you, like I said, if you know that Hoy and VUX, or on test day, if you'll at least look at, this poster, because I'll have it up for you on test day, then makes that so much easier. And then the last question, I believe, is this right here. A very tough question. So if you guess C on this one, I wouldn't blame you. Remember that the first equation that just has the X, we're not really looking at that. We're looking at this. The number at the end, if it's positive, this is our y-intercept. If it's positive, it goes up, negative goes down. So the one that says down right here, I can mark D off because it's saying down, not up. The rest of these all say up. Then this is the tough one right here. If the number is more than 1, then it's more steep. Less than 1 is less steep. Well, because 4 is bigger and it's on the bottom, this is less steep. So the answer would be C. So in the end, if you guess C, then